Good morning. Good morning, staff, students, and honored guests, Ms. Barbara Dick, Mr. Russell Ford from the Canadian Legion, Branch 61, and retired Major Reverend Jim Short. Today, on November 10th, 2025, Delview Secondary gathers in a spirit of remembrance to honor sacrifice, to pay tribute to duty, and to reflect on the immeasurable price paid by so few for the freedom and peace of so many. This is a solemn ceremony, so please refrain from clapping. May this ceremony remind us not only of what was lost, but also of our shared responsibility to continue the journey toward a more unified and just peace.
As we gather this morning to remember the sacrifices that have brought us to the peace that we so value today, we also take a moment to acknowledge the keepers and protectors of this land since before recorded history. Where we are, the Tsawwassen, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations continue to be guardians and knowledge and tradition who show us a way forward with care and respect. We honor the Indigenous soldiers who went to serve in wars and peacekeeping missions for a land they have always called home, even as colonial systems disrupted their communities and ways of life. They went, nonetheless, offering their hands in unity, standing alongside others in service of their country. In a moment, you'll be invited to stand, if you are able, and join the members of the Delview Voxtet Vocal Club in the singing of O Canada. Please wait until they are set.
Please rise.
You may now sit. I'd like to ask you about your morning today. What was or is your morning routine? You probably woke up to some kind of alarm and hopefully took a few moments for usual hygienic rituals, brushing your teeth, washing your face, maybe grabbing breakfast or packing your bag before heading out the door. We don't give much thought to these simple actions. They become habit, small routines that make up the rhythm of our lives. But beyond these day-to-day tasks, do we leave time for gratitude? Do we allow enough time for it? Without even realizing it, We are surrounded by privileges and comforts that exist because others endured hardship we can barely imagine. So what might a daily act of gratitude look like to you? Could it be a small act of kindness, a thoughtful word, helping a family member, or volunteering in your community? Would we have the courage to leave everything behind, to travel to the other side of the world and face danger if we believed it might secure a better future for generations we would never meet, lest we forget? Every year, as Halloween winds down and the Poppy campaign begins, we remember. Some attend community ceremonies, others quietly reflect during the observed holiday. We pause to acknowledge the significance of November 11th, the day the guns finally fell silent across the western front of France and Belgium, marking the armistice that ended the First World War. Remembrance Day is one day in the year, but how do we live lest we forget on the other 364? Those we honor today sacrificed for people they would never know, for a future they could only hope would be worthy of their struggle. They didn't know us, they didn't raise or love us, yet they fought and fell, believing in a world where we could live freely. We don't live in a perfect world or society, but perhaps we can move forward and closer if we make gratitude part of our everyday lives. Honor, pride, duty, sacrifice. These values were woven into the character of those that we remember today. And perhaps the greatest act of remembrance we can offer is to carry their legacy forward, not only on November 11th, but in the way we live every single day. I would now like to invite Gray Edgington.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. In Belgium, not far from the Essex Farm Advanced Dressing Station, where Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae wrote his famous poem, there is a city called Ypres. During the First World War, it was called Ypres, and Commonwealth soldiers often referred to it as wipers. This medieval city was almost completely destroyed during the battles along the Ypres salient between 1914 and 1918. During the town's reconstruction, one of the old city gates was transformed into a memorial for Commonwealth soldiers whose bodies were never found. Known as the Menin Gate, it was dedicated in 1927. The gate bears more than 54,000 names, including nearly 7,000 Canadians. In 1928, the citizens of Ypres established the Last Post Association and began holding a nightly ceremony. Each evening, buglers would sound the last post to remember the soldiers who gave their lives for peace and for the independence of Belgium. This tradition has continued every night, except during the Nazi occupation, resuming soon after liberation. Think about that. Every single night since 1928. Over time, the meaning of remembrance has grown. Remembrance honors not only the soldiers of the British Commonwealth, but also their comrades from Belgium, France, and other nations. Even those once seen as enemies are now remembered as partners in a shared future. It looks back on a troubled past and points forward with hope. This is the Belgian way of remembering. Remembrance is a verb, a deliberate act of reflection. It is a reminder that past mistakes can be avoided through compassion and grace. Doing this every night is intentional. It is not to celebrate war. You leave men in gate understanding the importance of remembrance, not the glory of battle. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, when public gatherings were restricted, a lone bugler would sound the last post, the melody echoing through the city as a reminder of the sacrifices made for freedom. Today, hundreds of people attend the ceremony each night, a mix of locals and visitors. But the bugle call is more than a tradition. It is the city of Ypres expressing a lasting debt of gratitude to those who gave everything for freedom. I'll now invite Avani Kumar to speak about Vimy Ridge.
Good morning. My name is Avani, and over spring break, I had the opportunity to visit Vimy Ridge. This monument is an important Canadian historic site in northern France. In April of 1917, Canadian soldiers fought what seemed like an impossible battle. Previous attempts to take the ridge had been unsuccessful and resulted in heavy casualties. The British tried, the French tried, but both were unsuccessful. Beginning on April 9th, Easter Monday, Canada had a significant victory in capturing the ridge, a defining moment in our national history, but with a significant cost. April 9, 1917, is still to this day the deadliest day in Canadian military history. I was moved to draw the Vimy Ridge Monument because it symbolizes the sacrifice of Canadian soldiers in World War I. I will now call MJ McLeod to the stage.
On Remembrance Day, we think about people who lived through wars and those who tried to keep peace in the world. I want to share some things that happened in my country called Lebanon. It happened on August 4th, 2020, not long ago, but even it was 5 years ago, I still remember that day like it happened yesterday. I was sitting down on my couch wearing my yellow pajama watching H2O, while my older sister was downstairs playing with my nanny, and my other nanny was in the other room scrolling through her phone. I was having the time of my life. I mean, what more can a 9-year-old ask for? Then all of a sudden, I heard a loud bang. It took me a full minute to understand what it was. I ran through my nanny and said, "Did you hear that?" And she told me, "Well, yes, MJ, I'm not deaf." Then she called my stepmom to tell her what just happened. When she finally answered, all I remember is how noisy it was in the other end. My baby brother was crying and my dad was shouting and yelling out loud, "What the hell just happened?" That day, 218 people died because of 2,750 tons of ammonium nitride exploded in the port of Beirut. That weekend, when I saw my biological mom, she was badly injured in her right side. Her birthday had happened a couple weeks back, and she was cleaning her house. It just so happened that she was right beside the window when the explosion hit. Even though what happened to me was not a part of the war, it felt like one. I learned how people can lose so much in just a single moment, and how important it is for all of us to work in peace. Lebanon is still struggling till this day. There are problems within the economy and sometimes fighting near the border. Life can be very hard. In Canada, we live in peace and safety, and I'm so grateful for that. And now, I introduce Björn Hamoser to the stage to make his poem.
It's glory, that glory, and where has it gone from vacant lawns, that above the dead no foot will tread, but slow and old, the hunched and cold? Where is that honor? There's none for the pawns, or So go and look and point at the glory in torn joints, the bleeding guts, unspeakable cuts, faces made like ruts, and you said it's for what? Just imagine the zeal to watch as you peel with gas, stone and blade, the young and old with spades, skin from scalp and bone, though far off and home, kindred can but cry as we hear mount the sky. King, find no reason there, country, find no comfort here. Why bother if on paper lines slither and slide, who's who, where, and what's which side? For lines, we watch cold bodies smoke. For coins, blood drowns breath and chokes. Shouldn't countries see us thrive and not demand our proud lives? What you'll do and permit, I can't say, it's not my remit. But standing right or on your bed, know that in vain we all lie dead. So stand and pay your sorrow's debt. We stand for lives not lived, lest we forget. We now welcome to the podium Reverend Jim Short. Jim Short is a United Church minister in his fourth quarter. He served 26 years in the Canadian Army Reserve as a chaplain and deployed to Afghanistan in 2008. For his service in Afghanistan, he received a commendation from the Chief of Defense Staff that reads, Major Short deployed to Afghanistan as chaplain with the Operational Mentoring and Liaison Team. He frequently moved into combat zones to check on the mental health and well-being of ground troops in contact with the enemy. His composure and grace under fire contributed greatly to strengthening their commitment and resolve. A soldier's padre, Major Short was a pillar of spiritual support, earning him the trust and confidence of his unit.
Well, good morning. You could say it back. Good morning. My name's Jim, and thanks for your invitation to be here this morning. I don't normally have my citations read or my medals or commendations acknowledged, but I wanted you to hear that because I want you to know that I have walked the talk. I know what it's like to be in combat. I know what it's like to see people die, and I know what the cost of war is. And that's part of the reason that every year we pause on November 11th for 2 minutes to remember how much war costs. And I'm going to try to share that and illustrate that with you this morning. I just want to also acknowledge that, as we just heard, I know that some of you may have grown up in a conflict zone. You may have family in a conflict zone. You may have had family who died in a conflict zone. You may have had family members who died in the First and Second World War. There could also be some cadets or reserve members of the Canadian military here. And give you a little bit of a trigger warning. I'm not going to scare anybody. But sometimes when we talk about war, it raises up all kinds of feelings in us. And what that really means is that you're human. So if you leave today and you have felt in your heart some of what war really costs and what it is we are remembering tomorrow, that's okay. But if you get upset, you got teachers and other staff people to talk to, and don't worry about being upset. Being upset just means you're human. I'm a pretty resilient guy. I went to war. I served 26 years in the military. I saw things that no people should ever see. And I came home, I kept my job, I kept my marriage, and I'm a relatively successful person, like many veterans of the Canadian military. But every 2 weeks, I have an appointment with a counselor from Veterans Affairs to kind of help me contend with how being at war affected me. So the cost of war. Well, I just want to say, first of all, that war is a big business. War generates billions upon billions of dollars every year for mainly the Western countries. It provides huge sources of employment, and there is money to be made. That's why the First World War, which was supposed to end wars, didn't end it. And not only does it make money selling arms, as the pictures of Lebanon that we saw showed us, there's billions upon billions upon billions of dollars to be made in building and rebuilding all the things that war destroys. And you get a sanitized version of war. Some of you play video games, some of you watch war movies, and of course, you watch war movies, a bullet hits you, you have a little hole. If you watch war movies, somebody throws a grenade and you do a somersault. And I'm going to tell you that that's not what war is like. So when a person is hit with a bullet, it just doesn't give them a little hole. It seriously, seriously injures them, as does grenades and all kinds of those things that on television, they kind of look like it's fun. And in war today, unlike the First World War, nobody really ever sees their enemy. 80% of deaths in combat are caused by long-range artillery and drones. 10% of losses in combat have to do with armored vehicles fighting and shooting at each other, and about 1 to 5% of combat losses come from seeing actually who it is you're shooting at. So when I end this and I show you the pictures of the 19 guys that died on my tour, none of them ever saw who it was that killed them. It was all done from a distance. So could I have that first picture? Okay, that's me. I was a lot younger then, maybe better looking, I don't know. These were young Afghan girls in 2008 that were going to school. That was part of the reason why Canada was in Afghanistan, was to try to protect civilians. In the Afghan war, the other side of the war did not want children to go to school. They didn't want children to learn. They especially didn't want women to go to school. These young ladies who I became very close to, one of them kept trying to get my wedding ring because she wanted to sell it and make some money, but I didn't think my wife would be very happy if I gave it to her. They would give anything to go to school. You'll probably groan a little bit when I tell you how privileged you are. Children in Afghanistan would die to have what you have, to go to school safely, to not have someone throw acid in their face. Schools were a prime target of war in Afghanistan, and the insurgent side had a deliberate agenda to destroy every school in Afghanistan so that people couldn't learn. Because when you go to school and when you learn, you begin to think and you can differentiate between right and wrong. Another prime target, teachers and administrators. Every teacher, every administrator in Afghanistan who took the risk of teaching students was risking their life on a daily basis. I don't know what happened to these girls after we left. Some of them may have died. If they're in Afghanistan now, they have no rights and no freedom. They may have become refugees. They may have ended up in another country. Can I have that next picture, please? Another target of war in all major conflicts is to destroy the infrastructure of a community. So you want to destroy hospitals, you want to destroy schools, you want to destroy government buildings, you want to eliminate anything that serves the general civilian population. So this is a young man and his father. I was out on one of our combat outposts, quite far away from the city of Kandahar. This man, I think, with his son, walked 10 miles to get to our operating base, which was just a small fort with 30 or 40 of us in it. His son had a splinter in his hand that had got infected. and there was no medical care anywhere where he lived. So he walked with his son 10 kilometers for us to look after his boy and to prevent the infection from spreading up his arm, because he knew that if he didn't do something, then his son would die. So when I spoke with him, while our medics were looking after his son, I said to him, "Can you tell me what is happening for you?" And he said to me, the Taliban, or the insurgents as we'll call them, told me that if I came here to get my son's hand fixed, they would kill me. But I love my son, and he is the most important thing to me, and I am willing to risk my life so that my son has the possibility of living. Now, forgive me if I get a little emotional. Thank goodness we live in a country where no parent will ever have to face that kind of choice. And part of the reason over the century that Canadians have gone to war and Canadians have sacrificed their lives is for this exact thing. Because millions of civilians live in conflict zones these days, and that is their daily life. Can I have that last picture, please? This is the 19 guys that died on my tour. If you're wondering why all the pictures look the same, we refer to those in the military as our death shots. Those are the ones that the government takes if we're going to die, and they can release it to the public. You'll never see, actually, any of the real photographs of the horror of war, because the government and all kinds of different agencies protect you from seeing those things. And you won't read much about them in the newspapers. It's called propaganda, because one of the things that happens in war is that governments take a lot of time to try to make you believe that the other person that you're trying to kill is evil, they're not a human being, it's okay to kill them, they're faceless. But the reality is in war, and any veteran will tell you this, is that the people that we go to war against are just basically people like us. They're trying to have a life. They may not even believe in the cause that they're fighting for, but they're struggling for their own survival. And so it's important to remember on Remembrance Day is that not only have Canadians given up their lives, there's been all kinds of people that we've called enemies that are just human beings. Anyway, there's 3 people in that picture that I want to make reference to. I'm going to tell you that we lost, I think it was 188 Canadian soldiers in Afghanistan, and I don't know how many mothers prior to my deployment who came up to me and held my hand and said, "You know, Padre, please bring my children home safely." And unfortunately, I and everybody else who was in leadership were not able to do that. There's a gentleman on that picture called, his name is Stephen John Stock. Stephen John Stock was a student at South Delta Secondary School for all of his high school years, just like all of you. He moved to Alberta, he joined the Army. He was on my tour in Afghanistan. He died along with 2 of his other friends, Sean and Dustin, when their vehicle hit an IED. Now, you will hear people say that we got off really lucky in Afghanistan because we had so few deaths compared to the large statistics that you hear about war. But I want to try to illustrate for you what war costs and what it is you're going to remember tomorrow if you're at a cenotaph and you just see a name, or you observe the 2 minutes of silence. So I'm going to do this in kind of a mathematical way. So where's Dave? Okay, Dave's over there, and I'm going to find my notes here. Dave is going to be Stephen John Stock. Now, when we think about the cost of war, Dave, who is Stephen, well, he had some immediate family. So if you've got card numbers 2 to 9, could you stand up? Yeah, 2 to 9. There you go. No, no, sit down. You should, only if your card says 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everybody else sit down. It's like herding cats. Okay. Let's try it again. So let's just say Stephen had 8 family members. Extended family, if you were extended family, you would be cards number 10 to 15. If you were close friends and unit members, you'd be cards 16 to 31. If you were part of his community, you would be cards 32 to 57. And if you were kind of in the secondary large part of the group of people he knew, you would be numbers 58 to 73. So if you have a number like that on your card, stand up. If you have an X or an L, sit down. Yeah, we'll do it this way. Look at your card. If you've got a number, stand up. Okay, and if you've got an X or an L, sit down. Oh, you guys are great. Okay, well, let's focus the attention up here. There we go. So there's Stephen John Stock over there. His death, one death, impacts at least 75 people. And think of what is lost in his death. I'm 58, I'm 68. I had 18 years of life after Stephen died. He didn't get any more years of life. All that he could have enjoyed never happened. All that he could have contributed to our community and to our country never happened. Now, if you've got an X on your card, stand up. There we go. So Stephen had 75 people impacted by his death. You're the people that were impacted by Sean's death. Another 75. And then if you had an L on your card, stand up. Yeah. You see, eventually the point is here, it's only 19 soldiers. We'd run out of people who are affected by the death of a soldier. So this is really, what I'm trying to illustrate for you is, this is what war costs. So you can sit back down. Any veteran or serving soldier will tell you that what they do is a job. And if they had the choice, they likely wouldn't go to war, but they would. So I went to war. I was proud to serve my country. I was proud to wear my flag. I was proud to protect those children. But it was costly. And so tomorrow, wherever you are, whether you're at a service, whether you're taking the day off, at 11 o'clock, please take 2 minutes to remember the 118,000 Canadians that have been killed in Canada's war in the 20th and 21st century. Thanks very much for having me. God bless to all of you.
dark clouds will gather round me. I know my way is rough and steep, but golden fields lie out before me, where God's redeemed shall ever sleep. I'm going there to see my mother. She said she'd meet me when I come. I'm only going over Jordan. I'm only going over home. I'll soon be free from every trial. My body sleep in the churchyard. I'll drop the cross of self-denial and enter on my great reward. I'm going there to see my Savior, to sing his praise forevermore. I'm only going over Jordan. I'm only going over home.
We will now proceed with the three-part symbolic recognition of our Remembrance Day ceremony. The last post, played by a bugler, is the formal acknowledgement of the end of the workday. It is also a symbolic acknowledgement of those who have sacrificed their lives and have passed. The moment of silence is a somber way of recognizing this ultimate sacrifice. La Réveille, which in French translates to the awakening, is the rebirth of the day and recognition of renewal, vigilance, and the continuation of service. In a moment, you will be invited to stand for the last post, followed by a minute of silence. The moment of silence will end when you hear the bugler play La Réveille. Please remain standing if possible and silent throughout all three parts. Please stand now.
They shall grow not old, as that we are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Tomorrow, on November 11th, please take time to remember our veterans of war and peacekeeping through all historic and ongoing conflicts. Be the future they hoped for. Be kind to one another. This concludes our ceremony. Please remain quiet as you exit the gymnasium. Once you are out of the gym, you are dismissed for lunch.